So I pretty much stopped watching the news for like the last 3 months, which has actually been pretty good, I think. And I stopped like digesting political content of all types and watching things on YouTube, which I realized like is actually very good for me. As I put things on YouTube for you to watch, don't listen to me. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Um, but no, it's like I think I kind of had a problem with that. It's like I would rationalize it in terms of like, oh, look how well educated and informed you are on these political situations. You're so informed, so rational. But I think that what that was is actually my ego rationalized, and it's like it's true. Like I can tell you lots of details about the Obama administration. I can put a 10-hour video on the internet for nobody to watch, me ranting in the forest about it. But it's like the reason I was doing it wasn't necessarily because it was like I was doing like some cost benefit analysis of like these are the things that you should know. It was more like these are the things that you'd like to know because this is what you do, this is what's familiar to you, and then there's my ego and certain corners of my brain using that rationalization as the justification for doing the things that I wanted to do in the first place. But like, is me digesting political content all the time that much fundamentally different than this person over here knowing every single detail about the Atlanta Falcons in the 90s because that's what they digest? They just know everything about sports, or this person knows everything about the Kardashians or the other notable celebrities, which I don't watch the content, so I can't even think of a good one other than people from 2009 that were famous and I think still are. Well, it's a little bit different in terms of like I can talk about political stuff and maybe that's more relevant to the world, but fundamentally it's kind of just like people digesting the things that make them feel good that are familiar in the same way that those other people were. And so I would think about that before you watch any more YouTube videos. That's not why, but that's a reason that I don't think I need to put out videos on every situation that happens all the time. Maybe I'll put out one or two, or one a week or a couple a month. And in that way, I think I can justify a few hundred people watching for a few minutes. I don't think that will totally F up your brain, but don't start binging political videos like you're freaking Noam Chomsky and you need to know. It's like you already have Noam Chomsky, although he's getting pretty old, but it's like if you become Noam Chomsky, what does that really do? It's good to be informed, but it's like, why are you really doing it? Why did I go on that long rant? That wasn't even what I was going to talk about. I remember. So I've stopped watching the news and political contents of all types, although I still kind of know what's happening because I'll see headlines. But the main reason I'll know is because like at the gym that I go to, because I'm just super fit and sexy and cool. I'll go there like late at night. There's this guy that will get there before me, and he just goes like he switches the channel to Fox News, and he just in front of the elliptical machine. I shouldn't make fun of him. He's an old man. He's just conditioned. I would be that person too if I was born 50 years ago in his household, and then some freaking stupid millennial with a camera and a rock is going to start talking trash about me in the forest to the internet. I'm not even in the forest. I'm in the freaking desert. But yeah, that's what it is. So pretty much like a lot of like as the current events updates that I've got have been from seeing the Fox News headlines and listening to that, and then there's also CNN on there. And like the one thing that I've noticed from watching more Fox News than I have in my lifetime is that like if you watch Fox News all the time, which is what Fox News viewers do, which is what most Republicans do, and Fox is still like the most commonly watched cable news program by I think quite a bit. Then what you would think is like the biggest problems on earth are, it's like I swear they talk about trans athletes probably like maybe a third of the time or something like that, like trans women athletes and there's like 4 of them. There's like 4 trans athletes and they're on Fox News a third of the time. So these 4 people have caused a third of the problems on earth. So it's like per capita there's 7 billion people, I don't know, it's like they're doing things like there's much problem from these 4 women trans athletes are coming, as 500 million regular people, and there's murderers and so, but it's like these are, this is the problem. And what I know is that the reason that they're focusing on that is that that's actually an issue that polls very well for Republicans. And most independent, it's like I don't have the poll in front of me, but it's like most people don't think that Like there's this one swimmer, I think that she might not be allowed to swim anymore, but she was for a while. But she was, she was, I think, a college swimmer before she transitioned as a male and wasn't that good, but was still, I think, at a college level, and then transitioned to being a female, which, but then started kicking everybody's ass, all the biological females. I don't know if that's the right word. And so Fox News will play it all the time, and they will play that all the time, and that's their main issue. And it's like, I didn't make this video to talk about that issue specifically. I think that it's, nuanced. I think that sports shouldn't just be about, I don't know. Yeah, no, it's a very nuanced issue. But at the end of the day, I think that there is some level of unfairness just because I don't want to start talking about it. But I have the view that most people have, which is like, okay, that seems kind of unfair. If there is a genetic difference, biological difference between males and females, I know there's a spectrum. I know there's people that are intersex, but like if you grow up for 20 years as a male and then are a pretty freaking stout male swimmer and then just transition and start identifying as female, maybe you shouldn't just be able to beat all the females at swimming. Okay, hot take. I know a lot of liberals don't like that take, and they are kind of fighting that battle. So this is what's happening, and then the Fox News people will elevate the liberals that are disagreeing with that, and then they'll bring on their righteous, right-wingers, and they'll be like, this is ridiculous, look at all these liberal, and then it's like the average person is kind of like, oh gosh, I'm kind of agreeing with Fox News, these people, and then it's like, and then as a result of that, and then it's not just one issue, it's like they kind of like, okay, it's not just like, okay, I agree with them on this one issue of this one swimmer and these three other athletes in this narrow circumstance, but it's like I also agree on, it's like I seem to agree, maybe I'm conservative, but people are not politically aware, so then they're like, oh yeah, I don't agree with liberals on this. Well, what are they saying about climate change? Must be a hoax. What are they saying about the vaccine? Like, it must be Bill Gates sticking microchips in people. What are they saying about... And I know that's not exactly how it works, but that's kind of how it works. It's like if you start fighting, it's like there's only so much political awareness that people have, and if people start associating liberals with their most unpopular positions, and that's the fight that's being had, and then the kind of most outlierish, non-nuanced people are the ones that are elevated, and because they're the loudest, and then and then the conservatives win that battle, then people start being like, oh gosh, okay, maybe well, at the same time, the conservatives, the Republicans, are, making sure that their lives are being destroyed, and that, their jobs are being outsourced, and that all the bad things that are being implemented, that they're being spied upon, that their taxes are going to blow up people in third world countries, that they're not having health care, things that like actual, if those issues were the ones that were talked about, the things that affect hundreds of millions of people rather than, a dozen people, then they would be losing, but they're not, so it's like they're kind of smart, but it's like for the liberals, even the one, and it's like I realize that a lot of the dogpiling that's going on to the female trans athletes are coming from people who are just hostile to the idea of trans people at all. But it's like they don't fight it on that. They fight it on the narrow grounds where other people will agree with them. But it's like a lot of it comes from evangelicals. A lot of it comes from anti-gay people, but they can't be anti-gay anymore because it's 2022, not 2011. But it's just like they've switched the anti-gayness to this issue, which is honestly one that is very favorable to them and is probably going to stay favorable to them because there are it's not equivalent to gay marriage in 2009. And so it's like, I think it's important for people who are on the left to like realize this and not like, even if maybe you disagree with what I just said about that, that's okay. It's a very, very small issue. And if you decide that this is the thing that you want to fight all the time, this is what is making up the political zeitgeist because of a number of people concerned about this. It's like, okay, I kind of get it if you're one of those athletes or maybe you're competing against them. But it's like most of the people angry about it, and also most of the people on both sides don't know a single female trans competitive athlete. They've never seen it except for on TV, but they've heard about it all the time, especially the Fox News folks, like I said. And so by doing this, like, we're not talking about climate change. By doing this, we're not talking about healthcare. We're not talking about wars. We're not talking about things that are actually affect the economy. We're not talking about things that affect hundreds of millions of people, including the people's own lives, their wages. They're talking about essentially, it's almost like it's kind of like, I don't know, it's almost equivalent to like being angry about different sci-fi, I don't know, having different positions on sci-fi characters or cosplaying or something. I know it's in the world, sci-fi isn't, but it's like you have no interaction with it and it's kind of abstract. It's almost like, I don't know, it's just, yeah, again, I'm not gonna have a great ending to every video, okay? That's just what I think about it, and I don't know, that's what I said, so.